Alright, so what we're going to do today is we are going back to this green book and we are going to look at the designs I made for what would be a prototype of a rudimentary spacesuit or just a pressure suit. I tried developing this design a few times, but really it was hard to test and I didn't really get very far with it in a lot of circumstances. But let's look at the designs that I made anyway. Okay, first one. At this time I really didn't understand the form of the human body, so I just laid it out in my designs. This is just more of that. As you can see over here in this section, this was what I thought would be a simple way to create the legs. The whole idea was just to duct tape a trash bag around the legs and then seal it up with some proper material later, but that would just hold the pressure in that design. Even though I did try it and duct tape seems not to work very much good for a lot of things. Here's another design. This one I didn't know how I would get in and out of it. That's a lot of problems when making spacesuits, is that on the seams they leak, especially if you have zippers. This would have two airtight zippers going across. The problem was I don't have any airtight zippers and I didn't really want to buy any, so I came up with this other design. This is pretty complicated. The way it would work is it would have like rubber straps going around, and then it would have regular zippers as well as a seal on the inside. And for the next designs, this is just, obviously spacesuits tend to have cooling tubes all around them. This would just be how I would do it, in a very basic way, just going across and across in different paths. There would be a problem with making the joints if I were to do that on the legs. I never really ended up doing that. For the next one, this is just another, as you can see, it was the same design, but as you can see there would be, the hole would be here, and that would seal when this was pulled over it, and that would be using rubber straps and zippers. I never really fully finished that design, but if I were to revisit this in the future, that would probably be the one that I would use rather than the one that I went with. This is how I would do the gloves without sewing at all, just using hose clamps. So basically just a glove and a piece of pipe, and that would go through a joint, then another piece of pipe, then another joint. And I further expanded on this based upon what exact kinds of materials I would use. And this would how it would be just a normal like work glove, and those are sealed up airtight if you hose clamp them down onto a piece of pipe, and then you can hose clamp the suit onto a piece of pipe. That was the basic idea, and that usually works when I try it in experiments. Here was another basic design. Basically what I did is I have a bucket to be the helmet, and that was sealed with hose clamps. Then the arms were also sealed with hose clamps, and then the boots, which when I made this design they were also sealed with hose clamps. Going to the next page, or that's backwards. But going to the next page, you can see more of this same design, only I tried to do it a bit more variated way. This was that other design with the whole zipper thing. I didn't end up using this one because it would be complicated to make. Here's one of the final variants of that design. This one would have joints on all the edges as well as a helmet, which would also incorporate hose clamps around all the areas. Still, I can't make a suit that's airtight, so that really wasn't part of the way. This is just a communication cap so I can communicate to no one because it's not going anywhere, just a theoretical design, but that's how I would do it. That would actually be a very basic thing to do. This was an expression of my not knowing what would go where. So I broke it up into pieces. They all have question marks all over them. So that's why. Here's some more variants. Once again, that same variant, drawn again, trying to understand how that would work. Another one, same final design of that first one. How I wanted to set it up was it would pressure at 4 psi, it would have 4 inches all over the arms, and it would have a cloth layer over a rubber interior. And as far as the helmet, I was thinking about using some kind of bulb or something, maybe fiberglass. Here's some more designs on the back. So we'll finalize this more. There's another picture of something. These are very old. So yeah, so here's all I really knew that I could do with the materials that I had. So I didn't know about what the suit would be, but by this time I had bought boots and gloves as well as some pipes, and that would just slide onto each other just fine. And those are really the only things that would work very well. Here's some more ones. That same design, but here's a zipper design going off of the Mercury spacesuits. That's how they worked with an airtight zipper. I don't have that, so I can't do that. More of those designs. This one is actually the one. This one kind of closely resembles the ones that I built. Just hose clamps all over. This was actually, the suit is actually a sawdust suit, which it's an airtight vinyl suit, but it's very thin, so I had to cover the entire thing in duct tape. I still have I made several versions of this. I don't have the first version anymore. Well, I do it just in pieces, but I have the second version. I might show that on another video. Another example of the climate control layer. By this time I had built the suit and it would get hot. Obviously a sauna, so it would get hot, especially if it's extra thick, and seal it all over the edges. So it would have just water going in and out the tubes, and that would go through some external pump elsewhere. Another one of the ones that's similar that I made, there were hose clamps on the arms and on the gloves, so you would have 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, so there was no sewing involved, just hose clamps. And that would make sure that I would have the least likely chance for leaks, even though they said really did happen. So here's another design. Basically this is a bucket, and how I cut it up was there was a section over the bucket and a section under the bucket, and I would put a visor in between them, duct tape all over it, and a hose clamp that down and cover it in electrical tape. It kind of worked okay, but not really. I would need to revise it in the future. So obviously that was not anything very practical. If I were to build a spacesuit, I would have to build something to use it, which I don't have. But it was an interesting idea, which I made when I was 14 years old. But I probably should have focused my time doing something a bit more immediately testable.